to the murder of 30-year-old Jordan Neely, who was choked to death by, I can only deduce by a madman or someone who was bloodthirsty and felt the need to, I can't say even take the law into their own hands because Jordan wasn't breaking any laws. This person just decided to choke the shit out of a person experiencing a mental health crisis on a public train. And that's where we are. Will, let's run that footage. So today at the it was announced, well, let me rephrase. I think it was announced yesterday, yes, that the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg would be bringing charges against that piece of shit right there, 24-year-old Daniel Penny, also a former Marine, also clearly a very dangerous and unhinged person who is clearly leading to and contributing to the rise in violent crime on the streets of New York City, as he felt it was his duty somehow to choke the life out of someone who was being loud on a train, someone who threw his jacket down. Yeah. This is the kind of madness that permeates the streets of the United States. And murder is very common in the US, and truthfully, throughout the overwhelming history of this country, it has not been against the law for a white person to murder a black person, especially if that white person claims that they were in fear of their life. That's almost carte blanche, pun intended there. That's the carte blanche to take the life of a person of African descent because white people felt scared. But in a shocking, I will call this shocking turn of events, that this person has now been charged with second degree murder. That is Daniel Penny, facing second degree. I'm sorry, I said murder. I meant to say manslaughter. My apologies. Second degree manslaughter charges. Very important distinction there. Second degree manslaughter. I believe the statute in New York requires for second degree manslaughter for the prosecution to prove that Daniel Penny was reckless in his actions, that he knew in advance that his actions would lead to the death of Jordan Neely. And as someone who's been reported to be a trained ex Marine, though I am curious why he is an ex Marine. Anyway, I'll get to that in a second. Uh, Without question, he should have known that placing a chokehold and sustaining, what did they call it? A naked back, a naked neck chokehold. It has a name. My apologies for not being able to call the name. It doesn't even fucking matter what the name is. He applied it in a way that he was trained to do. And without a doubt, he had to have been aware that keeping that chokehold on Jordan's neck for that duration of time would ultimately result in Jordan's death. So I think the district attorney has grounds for the second degree manslaughter. I mean, I don't know what the statute is for first degree manslaughter. I don't exactly see how this could not be that, or even second degree murder, really. So this sounds undercharged, but in cases previous to these where we have seen unarmed black men either be murdered by vigilantes or outright by the police, sometimes these prosecutors will apply the most harshest of charges, which therefore makes it a higher burden for them to prove in a court. And we know even juries are very reluctant, some of them, to convict scared white folks or piggish police who claim to be in fear of their life. Juries are sometimes reluctant to convict these individuals for murdering black folks, especially those who were unarmed. I can't even say anything else about it. I mean, it's a very sad state of affairs. So we'll see what happens with these charges. Daniel Penny was released on a $100,000 bond, and his next court appearance is slated to be in July. And what's interesting about, well, I say interesting, and I feel like almost interesting is like a crutch word, because is it really interesting? Or is it significant, or is it a better word besides interesting? That we good on that, Will. That's enough of that devil. There has been so much reporting about Jordan. There is the intentional smearing of Jordan's character. There is the misrepresentation of his mental illness. There has been extensive reporting about his criminal history. Not so much about Daniel Penny. Haven't seen. All I know about him is that he's 24 years old and he's an ex Marine. I'd like to know more. There was rumors that he actually was the son of a New York City police department. I've seen some reports disputing that, so I have not been able to confirm that particular fact. But we know all about Jordan. We know all about the victim. And the smearing of the victim has been what's going on. Well, that's enough of him. That's enough of Daniel. Thank you so much. Um, there's a couple things that I wanted to get into surrounding this latest development in the charging of Daniel Penny. First of all, District Attorney Alvin Bragg did not just charge him. I mean, he did, but he didn't. He was going to take this case to a grand jury, but instead decided to just go ahead and charge Penny with second degree manslaughter. If I keep saying murder, I think it's because clearly I think he should have been charged with murder, but the correct charge here is manslaughter, second degree manslaughter. I'm sorry, the stated charge. It's not the correct charge, it's the stated charge. But I keep transposing manslaughter and murder because I think he should have been charged with murder. But if it was not for the good folks in New York City, our comrades out there turning the fuck up at the subway stations in front of Alvin Bragg's office in Manhattan, on the streets of New York, if these people had not been turning up for the past 11 days, I assure you there would not be charges here. In fact, the same rhetoric echoed from Eric Adams, the mayor, to the governor, Kathy Hochul, to others in the right wing, especially the right wing sphere, about Daniel Penny being a hero. They would still be rocking with that narrative if the folks in New York hadn't got out there and turned up. But of course, when you stand in opposition to white supremacist vigilante murder, which is endorsed and backed by the American police state, which is an extension of the American military state, the police are not going to be accommodating to those who stands in oppositions to those things. And at two separate vigils over the past several days that were held for Jordan Neely, the New York Police Department showed up and brought violence. When the mainstream outlets report and say an individual for the victim, Jordan Neely, turned violent, it turned violent because the cops showed up and started physically harassing and antagonizing people. Anytime there is a protest, you, 9 times out of 10, the protests are peaceful until the pigs get there. The main people who caused the violence in the first place. But I wanted to take a look at some of those scenes. And let me give a content warning, everybody, for police violence, police brutality. We are going to see, even, I believe, a couple of journalists be detained by NYPD while they were there covering these vigils for Jordan Neely. One of these videos, or a couple of these videos, well, I'm trying to credit the journalists here. Let me credit to Talia Jane, independent journalist, and also to Scootercaster NY. These folks do an outstanding job of covering protest scene. I know Talia, I think she's an East Coaster. She covers shit in New York and DC, and big up to Scootercaster as well. They're always there. Jane's on the spot. I wouldn't say Johnny's. I don't know if they're Johnny's. I don't think they're Johnny's, but the people them on the spot. So yeah. So these videos were shot by Scootercaster NY and by Talia Jane. And again, content warning for police violence and police brutality. As the people that came out to mourn Jordan Neely themselves were traumatized and brutalized by the police state. Let's take a look.
Yo, watch your back! They're not going to silence me today. They're not going to silence me today. This is illegal.
Hold strong. Look how brutal these pigs are. Look how brutal these pigs are. Look how brutal these pigs are.
Fuck out of here. You caused all the problems. This shit was over.
Wait.
Go. Guys.
This is so fucking horrible. Why?
Sorry, no, sorry, it's come closer.
Shame!
GHT, GLA 794.
Public property. Y'all work for us.
Get up right now.
Back up.
Bro,
Get down.
hold me back. My back. Bro,
Everyone's got to get on the street. Come on, get this shot.
Let's go. Back up.
Out of the street right now.
all right, go ahead.
Oh my God!
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Back up.
John, it's me.
I wasn't doing nothing.
Back it up.
Come on, let's go.
Yeah, come back.
Guys, get back.
He's bleeding! Oh my God, he's bleeding!
We're mourning. You arresting people mourning. How about a murderer?
With fucking Daniel.
We hate you.
Bitch ass cops.
You pieces of shit. We fucking hate you.
It's never not upsetting, right? And I mean, you guys know that there are certain things that I won't show here, but there are things that I will show, and I will show the police attacking mourners, attacking people who have assembled for a vigil, not even for a protest, for a vigil, for a remembrance of life. That wasn't the protest. That wasn't the charge, this individual charge Daniel Penny. That wasn't what we just saw. We saw people who showed up to pay their respects to a member of their community, Jordan Neely. And what did the police do? They showed up to crack fucking skulls. That's exactly what they did. I definitely encourage you to follow those two journalists. You can follow Talia Jane at Twitter, on Twitter at Talia OTG, TALIA OTG, and Scooter Caster NY is exactly how it sounds. Scooter Caster NY. They're doing a brilliant job of bringing these very difficult scenes to us. Peace, peace, infinite content. Thank you so much for your super chat support. Yup. Did I say $9 million? Infinite Content says, Jesus fucking Christ, didn't New York City just have to pay out $9 million last month for police brutality during the George Floyd protest in 2020? All cops are bastards. Absolutely, Infinite, but you know they factor that into the budget. The brutality settlements, the lawsuits, the legal fees, the expenses, the paid administrative leave for the officers, all that shit's factored into that $10 billion budget, man. That's just the cost of doing business for New York City taxpayers. The people have to pay out lawsuits if they even get to the point where they can be resolved with money and with material compensation. It's a fucking mess. Nawada, you see it. It's wild. Um, Talia Jane, that is, reported that Jordan Neely's funeral service will be held on May the 19th, and members of the public are welcome to attend. If you also find on Talia's Twitter page a link to the GoFundMe, she was able to verify that GoFundMe for Jordan Neely was set up by his aunt Carolyn. It is legitimate. So if you feel compelled to support the Neely family in that way, you can find that information on GoFundMe. I think it actually specifies his aunt Carolyn, but Taya was able to verify that that is legitimate and will go to benefit Jordan's family. I think they set a goal of 75,000, and when I checked it earlier today, it was at 60,000. So I wanted to mention that. So, but what I find so typical and predictable and so telling about all of this is, and I don't bring the right wing commentary on here to show you, be like, oh, look at what this right wing asshole said, look what that one said, but I read the shit, and it just so offends my entire sensibilities. Congressperson Matt Gaetz, that alleged pedophile from Florida, he made it a point today on his Twitter to make a video in defense of Daniel Penny and said that he is contributing to Daniel Penny's legal defense because Daniel Penny was a hero. He called him a true American for standing up against violent thugs, violent criminal elements. And it's just amazing to me what white mainstream America considers to be violence from black people. It's wild. I told y'all the story last week. I'm not going to tell it again, but an incident that I had where I was speaking in my proper people voice and the white man told me not to be aggressive. I said, the fuck? Like, black people can't move certain ways. Black people can't elevate their voices above certain decibels and can't speak in certain tones lest you be quickly labeled as aggressive or violent or attitudinal or nasty or a bunch of things. And these things, I don't think they legitimately make white people afraid, but they use it as an excuse. Because Jordan was allegedly behaving erratically and supposedly making threats and was yelling about how hungry he was and how thirsty and tired he was. If there is a black person in proximity of a white supremacist follower, they will feel entitled, and as we keep hearing this word ballied about, the duty bound to put that black person in their place. Because those displays of anger, frustration, or in Jordan's case, mental health crisis is just unacceptable. in civil society. And this the ease of the disregard of Jordan's humanity. Matt Walsh repeatedly referred to Jordan Neely as a vagrant, just the ultimate dehumanization, that just because this person is poor, this person is unhoused, this person has experienced lifetime of trauma and unchecked mental illness. That is reason enough to disregard him. That is reason enough for a person like Daniel Penny to remove this undesirable from the ranks of society. So many of these right-wing fucking Klansmen online really are saying that Daniel Penny did a service is how they're characterizing it. And it's just, this is why I have an empathy gap sometimes when white people get fucked up. And I recognize it as wrong. It's wrong for me to feel that way. But it's in response to what I see in the reverse. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of this smearing of Jordan Neely's character surrounding his criminal history, they don't recognize that. They, the white supremacists, of course, but they don't recognize that as the the outward displays, the manifestations of his mental illness. If he's yelling at people or whatever, I don't even know what the fuck he was arrested for. It doesn't even matter to me what he was arrested for. The point is, all of his criminal background is a result of his untreated mental illness. And I even saw some right-wing commentary pointing the finger at at Jordan's aunt, at his father. Well, where were they when their son needed help? Why was they waited till their son died before they cared? This entire country, this whole system is a failure. It's an epic fucking failure. If you are in poverty, good luck getting regular health care, let alone mental health care. You know what I'm saying? It's hard out here for people to truly survive on their own. I don't know if Jordan's surviving family members are New York City residents, but we are seeing the mass exodus of generational black and brown New Yorkers being driven out because of gentrification. That is violence. Jordan is probably unhoused because his family lost their place to live, right? Because the rent's being driven up. The cost of living is exorbitant. The cost of food, transportation, housing, exorbitant everywhere, but especially in New York. So who was actually supposed to help him? Well, if we actually lived in a country that cared about people, particularly vulnerable, poor people, marginalized people, there would have been systems in place to help catch him. And again, I don't know what the inception of the trauma was for Jordan and for Jordan's family, but the fact that his mother was murdered by his stepfather, and Jordan, as a youngster, as a child, was witness to a lot of that domestic violence and to a lot of that abuse. It's I just shake my head in disbelief that these fucking racist assholes on the right just don't have no compassion for us. None. Like, we're not people at all. We're not people at all. They can recognize the mental health crisis in their communities. They can recognize the opioid crisis, even in some cases, even the gun violence crisis in their own communities. But when it comes to us, oh, we're just lazy. We just don't try. We're just out of control. We just need to be brought to heel. We just need discipline. We just need longer prison sentences. We just need more police. Like, it's all this punitive shit for us. And how come we're not? Sometimes I'm truly at a loss for words for the amount of disregard for life in this country. Maybe it's not just particular to America, but I think the way that America does indifference to humanity is particularly sinister and cold. And the way that it does that directly towards black people and brown people, as we're seeing right now at the border with Title 42. I mean, god damn. You know what I'm saying? Like, you only see me as human if I'm white, huh? You only recognize the humanity in immigrants if they're fucking Ukrainian, huh? And this place claims to be founded on Judeo-Christian principles. Not even fucking close. Well, hold on. I got a little something for you. Sticking with this, and the reason I separated this particular clip out is because it was posted by a right wing account. So them motherfuckers is not trusted news sources at all. And the way that they presented this particular clip obviously is very different than the way that I'm going to present it. So I wanted to, at least, I didn't want to include it in our montage because I wanted to preface it with the fact that this was posted to some right wing fucking shit. I don't even know if the shit was shot in recent protests in New York over the past week and a half pertaining to Jordan Neely's murder. But the vibe, but the vibe of the clip, I'm rocking with this shit. Check this out. This is apparently a member of the New York City Police Department being told all about theyself by some bruvs, by some righteous bruvs on the streets. Let's take a look.
That's what they do, pussy. That's what they do, nigga. Do something. Do something, nigga. That's what time it is. Just the time it is, nigga. I make them niggas pack your dumb ass up. I'm gonna make them pack you up, nigga. Watch it. Watch it. Pussy. That's right. That's right, nigga. Don't touch me, nigga. It's that time, nigga. It's that time, pussy. Let that white man get away. Let the white man walk out the door and they'll choke that one of yours. Huh? Oh, he ain't one of yours, right? He ain't one of yours, but that white man wasn't either. He wasn't blue.
Yo, he just followed orders, dog. That's all he
wasn't
does.
blue, nigga. He wasn't blue. If you gonna do something for black people, at least get the killer, nigga. If you gonna do something for black people, get the killer, nigga. Get the killer. Yo, y'all let him walk in the gate. You ain't mad, nigga. Do you feel like an idiot with that shit on? Because the blood is still on your hands, pussy. Y'all let him walk out the door, pussy. Y'all let him walk out the door, nigga. Yeah.
My guy asked him, "Do you feel like an idiot with all that shit on?" Dog. Hold on. Let me read y'all the quote from or at least the tweet, because of course, the right wing account saw that exchange a little differently than I did, right? And it says a protester freshly taunts and harasses a New York City police officer over the death of hashtag Jordan Neely. Pussy or something, nigga. And they they put a star, an asterisk for the I in nigga, for whatever reason. And it said, if I was that officer, I would have dropped him. Yeah. Well, he didn't. He got that cussing. He took that cussing. And couple of things. Can I big up both sides right there for different reasons? Okay, clearly the brother's there. I said, is that Minister Server? I said, who is that? Big up Minister Server. It sounded just like Minister Server. I said, who is that cussing out that policeman? I said, well, first of all, or I'm sorry, let me hit him with the kids do. Yep. All that for that exquisite, eloquent cursing of that black man in that NYPD uniform, sir. Protect and serve who? Right. Got all up in his shit. He deserved it, right? But I also got to give it to the cop. The cop just took that cussing. It's like he took that cussing as he should have. Like, what the fuck else? I mean, sir, are these men lying to you? Are they lying on you? Are they lying about you? I didn't detect no lies. Did y'all? That man didn't look like a pussy. Even though I don't like to use pussy in that way, because y'all know how I feel about pussy as a pejorative, because pussy is strong out here. And what do we like to say instead, everybody? Soft as scrotum skin. Yes, because scrotum's not nearly as resistant, not nearly as resilient as vagina. But that's not a secret, y'all. Fellas, y'all know that. So anyway, let's assume that clip was as it was tagged. A protester at the Jordan Neely events harassed a NYPD police officer. After the violence and the chaos that we saw in those previous clips of the police fucking up Jordan Neely's vigil, you know what? That one black cop can get cussed out. Mama Lorraine, thank you so much for your super chat support, Mama Lorraine. We certainly appreciate that. Was there anything else that I wanted to bring up about this arrest. Oh, there is something else that I wanted to bring up about this arrest. So, staying on the theme of police harassment of the protesters. Gosh, I think I just went up and down Talia's Talia's timeline because she was on it. She posted this, and I don't have this up there, Will, but from a group that was associated, a group of organizers in New York that helped put together Jordan Neely's vigil. They released a statement which Talia posted to her Twitter page where they talk about the amount of harassment outside of the vigils and the protests that they have been receiving from the NYPD. And they talk about being followed by New York City Police Department officers. And they even specifically reference NYPD's Strategic Response Unit. And they spoke about being brutalized and arrested some of their activists. And the one thing that they said in this statement is that none of the members of this organization, and I apologize, I don't have the name of the org, but like I said, Talia has it on her page, or they actually might be called the Maydays, Maydays. Yes, they are called the Maydays. Yes, and at the very end of their statement, where they are describing some of their mission in organizing some of these events to bring about charges against Jordan Neely's murderer. They close out their statement by saying the Maydays are not suicidal and we value our lives and the work that we do, and we won't stop until they stop. I thought that spoke volumes to me that an organization or organizers will have to come out and say that they are not suicidal. Which tells me that tells us what, everybody, that they believe that their lives are in danger from the NYPD. Period. Point blank. Specifically, I suppose from the Strategic Response Unit, that were probably those jackbooted thugs that we saw fucking up the vigils. And when people start saying that, it is time to take them seriously because there's lots of precedent, obviously, for organizers and people who support movements and are the leaders and the foot soldiers of movements in support of Black lives and Black liberation. It's not uncommon for those people to end up dead. Freedom riders were murdered. You know what I'm saying? People people are vulnerable when they are in police custody. The police literally have your life in their hands and they can do with you what they want. So again, I want to send big up to all the comrades in New York, people that just showed up to be a voice, to be a body, the people who helped to organize it, the people who did all the necessary reconnaissance to make sure that those subway stations and those train tracks could get shut down over the weekend like they did, to make sure that nobody got hurt, like until the fucking police showed up, of course. um if it but for those actions, we would not be talking about manslaughter charges for Daniel Penny. I know that and I believe that 100%. So we are going to continue to monitor what happens with this case. The bloodthirstiness, again, the bloodthirsty rhetoric from the right, from the white rights is I keep coming back to it because it it's so I can't even if I were to say jarring, it would only be jarring if I'd never heard it before, right? Like how it can't continue to shock me. It cannot continue to surprise me. So I'm grasping at the wrong emotional descriptors here. But I just you know what? Let me tell y'all this real quick, and you guys are gonna think I'm on a tangent, and I'm not. I have a white uncle. Crazy. Can I even say he's crazy? He's a white uncle by marriage, okay? So obviously he married a black person in my family. Do you know what he said? And his name is Uncle Roy. White boy Roy. You know what the fuck Roy would always say? Roy would say that white people are a virus. He said that white himself. He said white folks are a virus, and it's something that the aliens produced and deposited on Earth. Because, and again, I'm not. You guys know I'm not talking about our radical white friends here who don't see black people as subhuman. You know I'm not talking about y'all, but the wider race of Caucasians who subscribe to white supremacy specifically, it is something to matter, y'all. It is something to matter. These are people that are wholly disconnected from the rest of the humans on the planet, like in a way that is definitely unique, you know? Like, and I know, for example, when we're talking about anti-blackness pervades every corner of the earth. You know what I'm saying? All of the non-blacks are very well capable of anti-blackness, but it's something about the European descendants. I don't know, it's unusual and it's unnatural. And the fact that good white people have to be seriously deprogrammed from that fucking white supremacist shit should tell you all that you need to know. Like, a lot of it is they say that racism is not ingrained, it is taught. And I think that's mostly true. I guess, actually, I do think that's mostly true. Actually, I don't think white people are born racist, but I think they take to it like a duck to water. As soon as it's presented, they're like, oh, well, this makes sense. I don't. How is it I'm able to do this with such ease? Yes, because the whole of society is set up for the white supremacist ideology to permeate. You know what I mean? And I appreciate the anti-racist white folks that actually take intentional steps not to fucking be that way, because I know it ain't easy. Dog, I know that shit ain't easy. Ah, but it's just madness. So do us a favor, seriously. And this is an issue where I think, like, it's not controversial. If your white coworker want to get into a debate with you at work about Jordan Neely and did Daniel Penny have a right to defend himself from fucking what? How the fuck are you defending yourself when you're coming up behind somebody? So the person that you're defending yourself from has their back to you. Oh, and you still need defense? Oh, but you here to Captain Save a Hole everybody else on the train, huh? Nobody asked for that shit, Daniel. Rot inside of that jail cell, but he's not in jail. He's out on bond because he got loot. I want to know more about this person, everybody. So if there are good exposés, has heavy.com done the 5 things you need to know about Daniel Penny? If they have, send me that shit, because I'm telling you, there are probably sinister Easter eggs in this young person's past that would indicate to us that an incident like this happening with him as the focal point was probably not a surprise to people who may have known Daniel in his past. So there's that.